Hello all and welcome back to Jolly Good Journeys. This video is actually going to be a recap of my Alentejo trip that I undertook back in October. I'll be covering my exact itinerary, where I stayed, and the highlights of the trip. So if you have seen my Alentejo playlist already, this video will not provide you with any new information. But if you haven't and are interested in visiting Alentejo, this could act as a point of reference for you. As soon as I landed in Lisbon, I picked up a rental car at the airport and drove straight to Alentejo instead of staying in the city. The drive from Lisbon to here took about an hour and a half on easy highways. This Airbnb in the village of Guadalupe became my home base for the entire trip. Guadalupe is just 15 minutes from Évora, which makes it a perfect central spot for exploring different corners of Alentejo on day trips. Having a single base meant I didn't have to keep packing and unpacking, and I could come back to a familiar, quiet village every night. On my very first evening, before even exploring Évora, I headed to Almendres Cromlech, which is actually very close to Guadalupe. This ancient stone circle is one of the largest in Europe and dates back thousands of years. Walking among these standing stones at golden hour felt incredibly peaceful and mysterious. There's no entry fee here, and it's a great way to start an Alentejo trip with something a bit different from the usual castles and churches. Day 2 was all about Évora, the capital of Alentejo. I parked just outside the city walls and walked in through one of the old gates. It's a very walkable city, so you can see a lot on foot in just one day. One of the first landmarks I visited was the Roman temple, often called the Temple of Diana. It's completely free to see and stands right in the middle of the city. The columns are surprisingly well preserved and give you a real sense of how long Évora has been important, going all the way back to Roman times. From there, it's only a short walk to Giraldo Square, the main square of Évora. This is where you really feel the life of the city. Cafes, people sitting on terraces, and beautiful architecture all around. Probably the most famous and haunting attraction in Évora is the Chapel of Bones. This was one of the few paid attractions on my entire trip. Inside, the walls are lined with human bones and skulls arranged in patterns as a way to reflect on the shortness of life. To finish my day in Évora, I walked along the area near the old aqueduct. Parts of the aqueduct actually have houses built into the arches, which is really unique. On day 3, I drove about 2 hours north to the hilltop village of Marvão. The village sits high above the surrounding countryside, and the views from up here are incredible. I visited the castle and small museum, which is another one of the few paid entries on this trip. Walking the castle walls, you get a 360-degree view over the Spanish border and rolling Alentejo hills. A short drive from Marvão are the ruins of Ammaia, an ancient Roman city. It's very quiet and atmospheric over here. You can see remains of streets, walls, and other structures all set in the middle of the countryside. It's a great stop if you are interested in Roman history beyond the usual big city sites. To cool off after all that history, I went down to Portajam River Beach, which is right at the foot of Marvão. This spot is free to access and has a calm stretch of water where locals come to relax. It's the perfect way to end a day of castle climbing and ruin exploring. Day 4 took me in the opposite direction towards Monsaraz, about an hour and a half from Guadalupe. Monsaraz is a beautiful walled village perched on a hilltop with narrow lanes and whitewashed houses. Below it, you can see Lake Alqueva, the largest artificial lake in Europe. The contrast between the white village and the blue of the lake is stunning. From the castle at Monsaraz, you get some of the best views of the entire trip. You can walk along the walls and look out over the lake, the surrounding countryside, and the Spanish border in the distance. This area is also known for stargazing because of the low light pollution, so it's a great place to visit in the late afternoon and stay through sunset. Later, I went down to one of the small beaches along Lake Alqueva. These are free to access and give you a chance to relax by the water or even go for a swim. It's a nice change of pace from the hilltop villages and castles and shows another side of Alentejo. Day 5 was a shorter driving day starting with Estremoz, which is about 45 minutes from Guadalupe. As you enter through the gates, you immediately notice how much marble is used in this town. Even the pavements and some building facades are made from local marble, which gives Estremoz a very distinctive look. I spent some time just walking the streets of Estremoz. The town has a relaxed feel with traditional shops and viewpoints tucked between its narrow streets. This is a good place to slow down, take photos, and enjoy local life without any big crowds or expensive attractions. From the top of the castle tower, you get a panoramic view over the town and the surrounding countryside. You can see the pattern of white houses and red roofs and how the landscape stretches out into the typical Alentejo rolling fields. It's a great spot to understand how these medieval towns were positioned and defended. Later, I drove around 20 minutes to Arraiolos, a town famous for its hand-woven rugs. At the Weaver's Monument, you get a sense of how important this craft is to the town's identity. Around here, you will find shops displaying traditional Arraiolos carpets with bright patterns. Even if you don't buy anything, it's interesting to see this side of local culture. Day 6 was a longer drive, about 2.5 hours south to Mértola. From the entrance of Mértola Castle, you look down onto the Guadiana River, which has played a big role in the town's history. Not far from the castle, there's a National Capital of Hunting monument, which underlines how important hunting and the countryside are to the local culture. It's a reminder that Alentejo is not just about history and architecture, but also about rural traditions and the relationship between people and the land. From Mértola, I continued on to Serpa, about half an hour away. Walking towards the castle through Serpa's streets, you pass whitewashed houses, small shops, and quiet corners that feel very typically Alentejo. It's the kind of town where simply wandering is the main attraction. From the top of Serpa Castle, you get another classic Alentejo panorama. Open fields, scattered farms, and a big sky. The castle itself is free to explore and it's rarely crowded, so you can take your time and enjoy the views in peace. This was one of those spots where you really feel how slow and calm life is in this region. On my final day, I headed about 2 hours east to Elvas, close to the Spanish border. The highlight here is the massive aqueduct with tier upon tier of arches stretching across the landscape. You can walk alongside it and really appreciate the scale of engineering that went into bringing water to the city. Elvas is also famous for its star-shaped fortifications, and from the walls you can look back over the town and out towards Spain. The fortifications and aqueduct are part of a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and again, most of the viewpoints and walking areas are free to access. It's a very fitting place to end an Alentejo road trip focused on history and viewpoints. And that concludes my trip to Alentejo. If you're planning your own trip, maybe use this video as a starting point or check out the full playlist on the channel for detailed vlogs about each day. Thank you for watching and see you next time on Jolly Good Journeys.